What is going on, man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Oh my goodness. It felt like that intro, that 5-minute countdown felt like freaking
It is
forever.
the longest countdown of all time. It really is.
It's only 5 minutes, and I'm literally texting like 100 people one by one. I should have a little bit more streamlined process. You'd think I would by now.
I think you should. But I agree, though. Like, when you're trying to let all your people know, it's like that 5 minutes is the fastest and yet the longest of all time.
I was sitting there like, I'm going through them. Text. I just copy, paste. And then I was like, you know what? I have a system where I can just mass text people. Yep. And I can just put them all in a group, and I can just do that. And just,
you could. You gotta tell me how you do it, though, because I'm still doing it one by one.
Oh, yes. I just set up a system the past couple of days, getting text messages sent out. It costs like a penny per text or something like that.
Really?
It's not bad at all. Well, this is Whiskey with an Agent, the live show. We've been sending some pre-recorded shows out your way with some good information. Go back and check those out. Mm-hmm. You can listen to them audio only on your favorite podcast app, even Spotify. We're on Spotify if you want to check us out there. Or if you want to watch, us, then
pretty good.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that on Facebook, YouTube, and I tell you what, we're on Twitch. I just added Twitch. So if you're a Twitch person, then you can go and watch us on Twitch. So this is episode 29 and a half, and you might be wondering what the hell, like, did you do a half episode? Like, did you miss a half episode? No.
Almost.
No. So when we started doing the pre-recorded shows, what we didn't think about is we're doing pre-recorded shows, but some of those pre-recorded shows will come out after this show, but they were recorded before the show that we're doing right now. And in doing that, we were on episode 30, or we pre-recorded an episode 30, not thinking, hey, the live show is going to be episode 30. So we're like,
shit.
29 and a half?
So
29 and a half?
Yeah, 29 and a half it is.
So
yeah, and that's where we're at now. So
yeah,
it's a good time.
Yes.
It's a good time.
Yes. So, but it works out. I mean, 29 and a half, 30, whatever it is.
There's a flow to it, and we're sticking with it.
That's right. You may see another half episode at some point.
At some point, yeah.
Well, maybe we drank too much whiskey and lost track. Who knows? Who knows? But tonight's a kind of a big topic because, man, it's kind of like the gateway to getting into buying a house, getting any kind of a loan, really. Yeah. And we're talking about credit scores, raising your credit score. What is a credit score?
Yep.
What kind of credit scores do you need to get different types of loans, a mortgage, an auto loan, that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. All very important stuff. So,
that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to keep it. We're going to narrow it down, and just kind of keep it to the singular focus. And if everyone has any questions in the meantime, feel free, because this is probably one of the biggest obstacles that buyers have to face is regarding the credit. And it's on us, like as realtors, we have to understand that, not necessarily know the deep dives of it. So what we're going to be providing is essentially just the rough understanding of where we get it. Now, when it comes down to actually purchasing, that's where you need to sit down with your lender and really just kind of go over that credit report, learn what needs to be done if you're not able to make that purchase, if credit was never really your strong suit of building it, or just the lack of education that we have on credit in our school systems. So it's a lot of like hands-on and long-term. If you were trying to make a purchase inside of a month, well, and your credit is not where it should be, and so that's your whole plans just got pushed back by like 3 to 6 months, depending on where your credit's at, what needs to be done.
Yep. And here, I mean, all right, let's get real for a second, because here's the honest truth. I mean, I've never had a perfect credit score, and I've had some really bad credit scores. I've had some bad credit history,
Same.
and it's just a matter of how you come back from it. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually I had to sit down and say, all right, I've got to take this by the reins. I've got to go look at my credit report. And I mean, it sucks because it feels like your people are judging you. It's like, oh, you didn't pay that. You didn't pay that. Why didn't you, why are you so much, why do you have so much debt? All that kind of, and it's just, it sucks. I know it sucks,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to dig into this stuff. You have to, if you're going to get anywhere with it. And we're going to talk about some of the things, basically, let me just kind of lay it out real quick. So we're going to talk about what a credit score is and how it's made up. Like, what are the components of a credit score, how to find your credit score, how to find your credit report, and then based on what you find in your report, how to start repairing your credit score, how to start bringing it up so you can get to that point to where you're not just getting outrageous interest rates on, I mean, even like buying a car. I mean, in auto lenders, they'll lend to just about anybody.
Yeah, anyone that approves you.
Yeah, and they will lend to just about anybody, but they will give you, they have some really high interest rates. I mean, I walked out, I got quoted for an interest rate one time. It was by Bank of America for an auto loan, and it was 9%. I'm like, who buys a car at 9%?
Yeah, and what's crazy is a lot of people, like, I've been hearing some really bad things about how these people are really getting taken advantage of, the consumers, and like they're paying for a used car like $700 to like $1,000, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
What for? Like, and it's insane. Like me, like my interest rate on my car is not the prettiest. It's 7%, but I'm not paying not even the 300. My payment's like 280, but I pay 250, but I pay 300 a month.
Yeah.
And it's like that's where a car payment should be. Like, not $700, $1,000. Like, if that's your car payment, you guys should not be buying that car.
Well, it depends on what kind of car you're getting, but if you're paying a high interest rate or a high payment because your interest rate is just astronomically high, then yeah, that's something that you need to get that fixed.
Yeah.
So, and you can actually refinance your car. You can
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it does cost you a little bit of money, but you can do it.
Yep.
All right. So again, so this is our first live episode for this year, but so let's kind of get back into the swing of things. It is called Whiskey with an Agent. We are agents, and
you happen to be a pilot.
I do. Well. I do. I'm an agent pilot agent 007. Heyo. But let's talk about the whiskey that we're drinking. What do you got tonight? So, and this is one thing I like about the live shows, because a lot of times on the pre-recorded, we're kind of pre-recording them in the morning. We'll talk about some whiskeys, but not necessarily drinking
can't have it
whiskey
unless we're doing a pre-recording like on a weekend morning where like I know I'm okay.
But usually it's at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah. But I'm excited tonight that I actually get to drink some whiskey while we do the show.
It has been a while, my friend.
You pulling something out? Did you get something like FedEx to you?
What's going on there? Sir. I got this from a client of mine.
Oh, nice.
And it's from this really cool site called like Reserve, Liquor Reserve or something like that. And it is, he says, thank you, Chris, for all your hard work, because he is out of state. He's in Washington, whereas like we're obviously here in Florida. I helped him sell 2 pieces of land recently.
Oh, is that the one that I came over and did photos for? The aerials?
The drone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the one that you helped me with the drone.
Very cool.
I sold those suckers in like 3 days, both of those pieces.
Wow.
And so he got me some Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace. I think I've got.
Yes.
Is that the same one I have?
Yes.
It is.
Cheers, brother.
Oh yeah. It's almost like we're in the same room. But that's not what I'm drinking tonight.
No, you got some really cool stuff.
Oh, buddy.
this came from overseas, or not overseas. Yours came from overseas.
It did indeed.
I was gonna say like mine came from the stores, while yours came from overseas, which is really dope. So that's what I'm drinking. Please indulge us with the cool shit that you got while you were away. The perks of being a pilot and traveling.
Well, should I just talk about one of them, or should I name all three that I got?
Name the one you're gonna go through. Save the others for another time.
So, and when I show it to you, you'll notice that there's already some missing because I had to try it when I got back.
Because why wouldn't there be?
But so this is so the other one that I have is it's called Fuji Sanroku, like a slightly sort of a sweet taste to it at the end, like some little sweet notes to it. I'm not good at like describing like all the, you know how like some of those wine connoisseurs, it's like it tastes like a must. Well, while you're pouring, so wild turkey being shipped to the States, and then this one particular place, Justin's, whatever, bourbon house, something, they were selling it, and they were able to get it at a discounted price, and therefore sell it for a discounted price, and make a lot of money. I don't know whether they knew it was counterfeit or not, but man, that's
did they like kind of deny it?
Oh, I'm sure they did. Like I don't, it's kind of like an ongoing investigation. So there's limited information out there about it, but I mean, there's articles if you're curious and you want to go look it up, and it's it's crazy because so I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I wonder, like, because I go to Europe quite a bit. Some of the whiskey I buy over there. Yeah. Like, how do you? There's no way to tell. I mean, it looks,
especially to the common consumer, so you can get away with it for a long time. But the thing is, eventually it'll all come out because the greed of the people who scam will always be impossible to quench, like that thirst. Yes. Like they'll never be satisfied. Like, cool, I've hit the million mark. Now I want two. Like there's that greed that compounds, and eventually, if they get too big, or when they get too big, they eventually get caught.
Yeah. Yeah. George just made a comment. He's basically, it's like Cuban cigars. So basically, there's so many counterfeit cigars right now. So when you buy a Cuban cigar, the chances of you actually having a real one is slim to none.
Especially when you go to like the southern countries, like the southern border countries, or even like Key West. Like I go to so many cigar shops, like just browsing, and I always, especially in Key West, it's just like Cuban cigars. I'm just like, that's some bullshit. Yeah, it's like I guarantee they catch people not even realizing it. And same thing with like over like Cosmo, Mexico, and then the Cayman Islands, and it was like, you may come across, like, because when you're that closer to it, you can probably find some true stuff. But when you see a lot of American tourists, like, there's definitely some company that's just like, all right, we're just gonna make cigars and just label them as Cuban cigars. Not like, and the average cigar smoker or person that won't even know the fucking difference.
I wouldn't know. I don't smoke enough cigars to know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I smoke cigars. Like, I just got this one that is actually Buffalo Trace cigar. They actually, I had no idea that they made cigars, which is freaking dope.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I do like cigars, but I don't know enough about it to determine like, this is a good quality cigar.
Well, if it doesn't make you sick, I think that's a good start. Because I had
to agree with that. But at the same time,
I've had a cigar where I've had some cigar, like I haven't smoked a lot of cigars, but on occasion, you'll out with the buddies or whatever, and you have a cigar, and it's like, oof, man, you're like 2 or 3 puffs into it, and you're like, this is not, I don't feel good. But then there's other ones I'm like, you know what? This is not bad. I could smoke the whole thing,
Yeah, I definitely come across those too. But, they say if you don't get sick, though, it's just like, smoke enough of it, drink enough of it, and eat enough of anything, it definitely gets you sick.
Yes. Well, what do you say we talk about credit scores.
Boo. I thought we were
Boo.
trying to avoid that segment.
Ah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's, you know what? Here's the thing with credit scores is it sucks, and I honestly, like, me personally, like, I hate the fact that we have credit scores, something that scores me based on how well I can pay off my debts and you know how much money I have, whatever. I hate that whole thing that, you know, I think it, why can't it just be equal and just, you know, hey, if you need a loan to buy a house, you should be able to get a loan to buy a house.
Yeah.
But obviously the banks are in the business of making money, so therefore they have to assess their risk. If you had a business and you're going to do a job or loan somebody money, you're going to be like, "Hey, are you going to pay me back? Are you going to, like, seriously, are you going to pay me back?" So they have to figure that out, and that's where the credit scores come in. So it's, as much as you want to hate on it, it's a necessary part of your personal finance, your wealth goals, whatever you're looking to do. You know, you're gonna have to take out a loan at some point, unless you're living off the grid in a tent in the woods somewhere. You know,
Yep.
so be it.
Not even able to listen to this podcast.
Right. Yeah. So you wouldn't even be. Hey, that's a good point.
Yeah, it really is important. But looking up the history of credit, it's actually made things more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Before credit, people saved their money, they worked, and they were able to afford things. But
Right.
because of credit, it allowed goods and services, or mainly goods, to be increased in price because the affordability, the dollar goes a lot further because of credit. It's like, yeah, I make $15,000 a year, but with a credit, I can actually extend that $15,000 to $30,000 a year, or more so. So like that allows the pricing of anything and everything just to kind of go up because of that ability to gain credit.
Yep.
So it is important to know the game instead of go against the grain. That
Yep.
way, if you know it, then you know how to play the game,
Yep.
and therefore it'll only benefit you, and you'll be able to sleep a lot better. Because I
Yeah.
was in the same position you were, Jared, where
Mm-hmm.
I ignored credit. I
I
didn't
did.
care about credit. I hated credit. I put myself in debt.
Yeah.
Because of that, because of a credit card, and didn't pay it, didn't care to pay it, went to collections. And then it wasn't until I got into this business, when I was in my
Yeah.
mid 20s, late 20s, by the time I realized, like, it's pretty actually important if I want to buy a house one day, and actually
Mm-hmm.
practice what I preach. And like, I should probably get my shit together. And
Right.
because of that, we've been able to afford 2 homes now, and we got very, very low debt with the exception of our homes.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're actually, it's been very freeing to know like where our credit and our finances are. Like, that financial freedom has given us mental freedom,
Yes. Yeah, it's,
and having
so,
that understanding helps.
I mean, like you said, there was a point in time when credit was basically non-existent. The only time you applied for credit or a loan is probably when you're going to buy a house. You didn't have credit cards, you didn't have all that, you know, all that other stuff. You just, when you wanted to buy something, you saved up money and
Yeah.
you went out and bought it. And then, you know, along come the credit card companies and all that, and then they said, "Hey, we'll loan this to you on good faith
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to pay us back, and you will pay us back. If you don't, we're going to destroy your credit history and you're never going to be able to get a decent loan again."
Yeah.
So, but what's your understanding of, like, what a credit score is? Like, how, what do you think?
Of what a credit score is?
Yeah, like, what's your understanding of a credit score? Put you on the
My
spot.
understanding, I mean, I guess I kind of need a little bit more narrowed down. My understanding of a credit score is that there's this range from good, like from bad to great, and that really limits your ability to be able to purchase things on a large scale. Car, which used to be a luxury, is now becoming a necessity. A house, which is a necessity, but we act like it's a luxury. And it's in terms of affordability, and depending on how good your credit is and how responsible you are, is where with your money you are able to stretch your dollar so much further and have the things, wants and needs. Because I would say you should focus on purchasing needs more than wants. But I'm definitely kind of going off track here. My idea of a credit score is just a system that helps banks and lenders determine the risk and how financial responsible you are.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's so if you look at it kind of like your grades, and going through school. I mean, your grades kind of determined how well you performed in that class, how well you knew the knowledge, how well you did.
Yeah.
So your credit score is essentially the same thing. The lenders, the banks, they're looking at you and you have a credit score. It's sort of like your grade. They're looking at you and say, how credit worthy is this person? What is the likelihood that they're going to pay me back? And and on a certain spectrum, on that scale. And the scale that we're talking about is the credit score. So most people, when they talk about credit score, they're referring to what's called FICO, which is FICO, which was created by, what was it called, the Fair Isaac Corporation, I think it was. So some corporation, they came up with this algorithm to say, taking all these variables in, and then they're going to grade you, they're going to score you on a scale between 300 and 850. Obviously 300 being,
Garbage.
maybe you're just, garbage. Maybe you're just starting out, you're just starting to build credit. And so you're going to start on the lower end, but then as you start to build that credit, you're going to get, start inching your way, creeping up to the higher numbers.
Yeah. And that's what you want. And it's all about that financial responsibility, especially when people are loaning you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And we also need to understand that it's important to kind of not to understand and assess risk. Because if we just gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to anybody and everybody, just because they promised to pay without any kind of thorough background, we are going to find ourselves in 2008 all over again, 2007, 2008 all over again.
Yep.
And we don't want that. So when that housing crash occurred, they really tightened up on stuff, with a lot more regulations, rightfully so. And I have really no problems with the way regulations are. And is there room for improvement? Absolutely. I'm sure there is. There's always room for improvement. We should constantly be improving. But I have been seeing articles coming out for fair housing violations on borrowers and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because, like, I don't think there's a lot of fair housing issues to be had here. It's like it's either the buyer is able to financially afford it or not. Just because they may be lower income, it doesn't mean they don't have a right to a house by any means. But should we be loosening regulations to accommodate someone who's not financially stable? Are we digressing or are we improving?
Right.
In that case? So it's kind of interesting.
It is. So, and going back to like credit scores and stuff. So that magic number, I mean, it's a wide scale from 300 to 850, and that magic number is somewhere in that 600 range. I mean, 680 is sort of like, that's sort of like a key number. Like if you can get above that 680, chances are like you're gonna start getting a little bit better. You're gonna start, as far as interest rates and things like that. If you're 680 or like if you're less than 680, you start increasing the risk of either being rejected for certain loans, depending on what you're trying to apply for, or you're just going to get such an outrageous interest rate that, man, it's just going to cost you so much freaking money to buy anything on credit. So really that magic number, you really want to shoot for something above 680. 700s is even better if you can get it up to like that 720 mark. I've heard that 720 is like that next magic number.
Yeah, there's tiers to that. You're right.
Yeah.
Because if you're very low on the totem pole, you're not going to get the good stuff. Whereas if you're high on the totem pole, like 800, 850, which is immaculate credit, then you're going to be given the best rates. Not so much as the higher approval ability. It'll just the back end of terms would be better and would more beneficial for you.
Right.
So
yeah. So I mean that kind of gives you an idea of where those credit ranges fall. But then so here's one of the mysteries that I really didn't understand, and I didn't know how credit scores were actually made up. And it's still, so here's the thing: the algorithm that the companies use, it's a proprietary algorithm. They're not going to divulge that stuff, because otherwise, I mean, it's think of it like Google's algorithms or any tech company algorithm or something, that you're searching for stuff, or it's all proprietary stuff. They're not going to divulge that, because as soon as they do, then people are going to know how to manipulate. Not on a good way. Not on a good way. They're going to do it, on a bad way, to where they can manipulate their score to make it appear as if it, so just take that for what it is. But what we do know is basically there's 5 different categories of how the credit score is made up. And are you familiar with these, Chris? Like how
how it's made up? There's utilization. There's history, so longevity.
Right.
And those are the 2 biggest ones. It's inquiries, number of inquiries. Like how often is your credit being pulled? Those I think those are the 3. You saying there was 5?
Yeah, there's 5 different categories.
Okay.
So basically, like the first one, it's going to be your payment history. So payment history is going to be, it's actually the biggest factor, the biggest weighted factor that goes into your credit score, and it's weighted by 35%. So that accounts for 35% of your credit score, your payment history. So, and then the second biggest one is going to be the utilization that you talked about. So basically, how much, so you have, whenever you apply for credit, you have a certain amount of credit available. How much of that credit are you using? So if you have, let's say you have a $10,000 credit line and you're using $5,000, you've got $5,000 racked up on your credit card. Yes, you're using 50%. That's not a good number. Credit card companies like to see around 10% utilization or less. Anything more than that, then it starts really, the more it is above that, then the more it starts hurting your credit score. So the utilization, that affects your score. That's a 30%. That's 30% of your score. The third one, what you said, is your credit history. And so here's a couple of interesting facts about the credit history. So the credit history, it makes up 15% of your credit score. But now what they do is, so before they would just look at the overall age, what the age was of your credit, even if you closed accounts or whatever. Now they look at, so if you, let's say like when you're a teenager, you're just getting into the age where you could open up a credit card. You open up a credit card, that's now your oldest, credit on file on your history, on your account.
So long as you didn't close it.
So long as you didn't close it. As soon as you close it, now that average age becomes newer. So where that average age, if you had that older credit card, still your average age might be 15 years of credit history. You now remove that credit card. Now it moves up to, so maybe it's only 8 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
So that has a big factor. So here's the thing with that is, if you have old credit like that, don't close them out. As long as it's not, as long as there's no like annual fee or anything like that, don't close them out. Even if they do have an annual fee, sometimes you can actually, you can call up the credit card company and talk to them and say, hey, I don't want to close this account, but I don't want to pay the annual fee. Can you put me on, can you give me a credit card? Can you switch it over to something that doesn't have an annual fee? Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends
a lot of
on
times they're not
the
going to.
company.
If they're going to do that and they hear that you're not using it, then they might as well just close your account. And sometimes they will close your account because you're not using it. They're losing money by having you on there. Then it's worth having you on there.
Right.
So that's a huge thing. And what's really a kick in the teeth is that your longevity of history is such a monumental amount, such a factor that it's like I can't help it if I've only had a credit card for 3 years, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do? It's just like I'm just starting out, or if like my entire life I had a credit card, I maxed it out, and I didn't care for it, didn't want it. I got my first real credit card at like 23 years old.
Yep.
And I blew it out of the water, or 22, 23 years old, blew it out of the water. And then I didn't get another one. And I just got my first credit card last year again.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't need a credit card in order to build credit though. But it's one of the easiest ways to build credit.
You don't, but it is, it is one of the easiest ways. And here's the thing, we'll talk about here in just a second, or in just a few minutes. But there are ways, if you are just starting out, or if you do have bad credit, there are ways to help boost that score. So let's say, if you're trying to get that quick, boost in your score, there are ways to do that. We'll talk about that here in just
we'll show you some. We'll tell you some tips and tricks too, for sure.
So
what's another one?
We talked about, what we talk about? The history. So then the number fourth one, or the fourth one, is going to be, so the types of credit or the credit mix. So basically, lenders want to see like a mix. They want to see auto loans, credit cards, mortgage, different types of loans, because what that says is, hey, this person he or she, they're responsible at handling different types of credits. They have a car, and look, they're making on-time payments. They have a credit card, they know how that works. They're making on-time. It's just like, as you're growing into your adult years, you get more experience and you become more responsible, so to speak. Most adults, not all adults. Some of them are still irresponsible. But so that's what they're talking about. And then the last one there is just talking about hard inquiries, like how many credit inquiries have you had in a certain amount of time on your credit report. So basically, like when you go to apply for an auto loan or a credit card or a mortgage company, or like if you're buying a house, they're going to run your credit, and it's going to put a hard inquiry on your credit report, which it's, so that one is weighted, that accounts for like 10% of your credit score. So it is going to pull it down a little bit, but the nice thing with the credit inquiries, you do have the ability to shop. This was something that I think they added, I can't remember, it's been fairly recent, like within the past decade, where they made it to where you can shop around for rates, for interest rates. So if, let's say you're going to buy a vehicle and you want to shop around. So before, you would go into the dealership, and then the dealership would pull your credit, and boom, that's one hard inquiry. And then you would call up your bank and you'd say, hey, I want to see what kind of interest rate you're going to give me. Boom, that's a second hard inquiry. They got, the banks and the credit bureaus are like, okay, we're kind of prohibiting people from shopping around. We need to, allow them to shop around. So what they said is, any credit inquiry that is in the same category, such as auto loan or home mortgage or something like that, within a certain amount of time, I can't remember, it's like 2 or 4 weeks. I can't remember exactly how much time, but as long as you do it within that time frame, it's only going to count as one inquiry. So it's only one hard inquiry on your credit.
I have to disagree with that, because like when I got my car loan, and I got the car and I sat with them. I went to my bank first. I
Yep.
went to my credit union. They denied me.
Okay.
And then when I went to them, to the actual dealership, they pulled my credit 6-7 times.
The dealership did?
Yeah, because they have to go to all these banks and they're all just doing it. Crushed my credit score. Anytime you go to take a car loan to get it, like they are just sitting there and just going through pushing the button to see who's going to accept you. Who's going to accept you? All right, this one accepted you. Okay. Anyone else? Or if there's like 2 or 3 that get accepted, then they're saying, all right, this one's got the best rate. And like it just fucks your credit score.
That's so
It
weird
did
because
damage to mine. It absolutely did damage to mine.
it's not supposed to, because that's actually something that they passed to where for that
How
specific
recent?
reason.
How recently was that?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look and see. When did you buy the car?
2017?
Okay.
2017? 2018?
I don't know.
We have to go back and look because that shit crushed
I'll have to
me.
look because I know for a fact that they
was like
did that specifically
I think I'm being
make
excessive, but I could have swore it was like almost a 40-point drop because of that.
That's usually incorrect because it's only 10% of your score, so it should not affect your score by 40 points. So there was something else going on there. Something else was going on.
So I just remember like I got like in the mail and it's like regarding your credit score and it's just like what the fuck.
I know. That
was a massive drop. It was a huge drop. I think 40 is excessive, but I know it was like over 20.
That is really.
But I definitely know with mortgages, everything you're saying is factual.
Right.
Everything you're saying when it comes to mortgages is factual because like when I got my credit score pulled for the home, it was my score only went down like I think like 5 points from that. And then I built it up. And then after that, my credit score went up because I guess my debt ceiling went up. So therefore my credit score went up.
Yes.
And then I had paid something off shortly after that. Oh, I know what it was. I got a Home Depot credit card. So once we bought the house, I went ahead and went and applied for a Home Depot credit card. My score dropped significantly. And I use Credit Karma. Just for like just a bare base, and it's not something to be considered what's the word I'm looking for, as set in stone per se, as a lot of people think. It's like, well, on Credit Karma, saying my score is like a 720 and you're saying it's a 680, and it's just like, yeah, it's because it's Credit Karma, unfortunately. So I took photos of that drop. I'm trying to find it here.
So I just looked up on Experian.com. Experian is one of the 3 credit bureaus. So you have Experian, Equifax, and then TransUnion. Those are the 3 main credit bureaus, and they're the ones that keep track of all of your credit history and your credit scores and everything like that. They also have some data breaches. I don't understand how they're still, like, they weren't fined just billions and billions of dollars, because that's just ridiculous. That I have my information on there, my private social security number and all my information, and then it gets breached, and then it's like, oh, here's, pay us a couple $100,000 and that's like pocket change for them, literally.
Right.
I think it's the most ridiculous thing that people, these companies can just let our data be randomly, hacked. And then they only have to pay. I was like, oh, my bad. Here's $100,
Yeah, it's like the price of doing business nowadays is just a fine. And it's like, when I hear some of the shit that's going on and like they're getting a fine, I'm just like, they should be shut down. People need to be arrested. Set an example.
Ridiculous.
So for all these other companies,
it's ridiculous.
We will be able to rebuild it. Someone will be able to come back and rebuild the same business model, but with different management and less corrupt assholes. So you're getting into politics here. So anyways, so you see here, I bought my house in February 7th, 2020. And
dude,
so
what's wrong with your screen?
Huh?
It's all cracked and stuff.
Oh yeah, I totally dropped it. Dang. So 698 is when I got my pulled on November 17th. Got my credit pulled, and then then after the pull, because we had your credit has to get pulled one more time. So January 22nd, we're about a week away from your from closing. See, just from that one little pull, it dropped, right?
Dropped 1 point, yeah.
Dropped 1 point. And then after we got the home, we're now March, 1 month later, my credit score went up.
Yep.
And then you can see that huge drop right here. And it dropped in April of April, just a couple months later. And it was because of the Home Depot credit card. So
because you opened up a new credit card?
Open up a new credit card.
Right.
Home Depot line. So it's small stuff like that will just tank your credit scores.
It can
at first, and then that'll increase.
It can. In the long run, if you give it a few months, it'll come back, and as long as you're paying that, because what they're looking for is they're looking for that credit history. It's like, oh no, Chris just opened up a Home Depot credit card. What's going to happen? Is he going to pay it off? And then you make a few months of on-time payments, because late payments is a huge factor. And
so after I opened it, and I did a little bit of time, it jumped right back up. So
there you go.
That's that's just that you got to play the game, and you got to know that once your inquiry gets pulled, and you should definitely monitor your inquiry, and then also monitor your overall credit health. You can pull your credit report and your score once a year for free. You should do that.
Yep. So there's 3 different sites that I use. One of them is Credit Karma, creditkarma.com. If you're not familiar, you can go on there, you can sign up, you can put in you got to give them your social security number and everything, because they have to pull your background and everything. Credit Karma, the score that you get on there is never going to be the same as like when you go to apply for credit. It's going to be different. I've done it to where my Credit Karma score might say 700, and then I go to apply for credit, and then it comes back, they said, oh no, you got like a 720, and I'm like, really? Or it comes back and then they're like, oh no, you got like a 690. I'm like, okay. It's never, but it's usually fairly close to where Credit Karma says it is. The other one is the annualcreditreport.com. You can go there and you can get your credit score and your credit report once a year for free. There's no charge to it or anything. Credit Karma doesn't cost anything. The way they make money is they sell you credit cards.
Like
they make
protection,
money.
notifications, and stuff like that.
So they have other ways to make money.
There's freecreditreport.com, which I tell a lot of buyers, like, hey, you can pull your credit report right through there.
Yeah. Basically, if you're paying, or if you're on a website where they're trying to charge you for your credit report or to see your credit score, nope, don't do it, because there's too many free ways to get it done. So don't worry about, you don't have to pay to get your credit score nowadays. Back in the day, maybe, you had to some secret site, you slip them $10 and, hey, what's my credit score, on the down low. But now it's like, oh, it's out there. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what it feels like sometimes. Like when it was first kind of new, like way back in the day, it's like, hey man, hey, you got any credit scores around here? What, I need I give you $20 and you tell me my credit score, and I give you my credit. It felt like such a, like you're doing a drug deal. It's like, oh, that's a good credit report right there. Let me get some of that. It's so stupid. That's gonna be
like all these credit repair companies too. Like, real quickly, what's your opinion on credit repair companies?
So credit repair companies, I don't know. I would say at least attempt to repair and do some stuff on your own before you call. I mean, unless you're just completely clueless on how the whole thing works. But if you can at least get your credit report and go through that and see all the late payments, see what kind of debt you have, what kind of loans you have, and then if anything's wrong on there, there's literally phone numbers for each lender. There's phone numbers on there. You can call them up and say, hey, I was late a couple of times. How can we fix this? Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to work with you somehow, depending on how late it is.
See, they want to get paid. They'll even settle.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
especially like because you have to address your collections, you have to
Mm-hmm.
address your derogatory remarks,
Mm-hmm.
and if someone's pulling your credit, even if it's a soft pull on a regular basis and it's unauthorized, you can send them like you can call them up and be like, I need you to stop what you're doing right fucking now. And also, it's a good way to kind of identify if there's been a potential identity theft. Um,
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah.
see like
The
a number
credit.
of
Yeah.
inquiries, and it's just like, what the hell is this? And it's like, yeah, we got your identity was pulled in, Morocco. It's just like, well, asshole, I've never been there, so
Right.
that's identity theft right there. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of good reasons to monitor your credit report, not so much as your credit score. Credit score can come once a month, but it's really your credit report and like what's on there. I
Right.
would say that's almost more
Yep.
important to look at on a regular
Yep.
basis than your actual score.
So
Look at
there's
your
there's
score when you're about to buy something.
yes. So when you pull your credit score, there's like five things. I kind of broke it down into there's five things that you really need to look for, and one of them is how much credit history do you have. So and this is all going back to how it's going to affect your credit score. So how much credit history do you have? Like what's the oldest account that you have on
Yeah.
there? The second thing is how many late payments do you have? Do you have just one or two or three or hopefully not more than that, but
So
if you
payment history.
do, yeah, that payment history, that's going to affect your score quite a bit. And I'll talk about how to mitigate that here in just a second. So 3, how many do you have any accounts that are actually in collections? So collections, I think we kind of touched on it. So basically, if you're late, usually more than like 180 days, if you're late on your payment, it's the company that you're borrowing the money from. They're going to charge it off as a loss. They're going to sell it to some collection agents, a third party company, and they're going to literally they sell it for like pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. I mean, they might sell a $5,000 debt for $500 or something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
stupid how cheap they sell these things for. So, and this goes back to if you just call the lender, call your credit card company or whoever you have a late payment, and you just like, hey, I'm delinquent on some of these payments. What can we do? Can we work something out?
Mm-hmm.
Because chances are that company is gonna work something out because they don't want to lose the $5,000. They would rather try to work something out and be like, "Hey, tell you what, pay us $4,000. We'll call it even. We'll mark it as
Yeah.
it's paid, it's caught up, it's
Yeah.
whatever, and
And
then
they'll
we'll
ask
go
for
our
a letter
separate
of
ways."
deletion,
Yeah,
and you can like have that being sent to the credit bureaus,
yep,
which is important. So it's all
yeah,
pretty important. Like try to negotiate with them. Don't just ignore it. They
no,
call you and mail you for a
yes,
reason. They
yes,
want to get
yeah.
paid to some degree.
They 100% want to work with you, and late payments, I've had this on mine. Late payments stay on your credit report for about 7 years. It's kind of like if you break a mirror, you got 7 years of bad luck. If you have a late payment and it goes to your credit report, it stays there
Yeah.
for 7 years.
Yeah,
That's a
there's a
long
lot of
time.
stuff like same thing with the collections and derogatory remarks that stays on there, man.
Yeah.
Like even though it's paid off and you can request a letter deletion, they always say the same every time I call them. They're just like, we we have a right to leave it on there for 7 years. And you're just like, yeah, but I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I've already satisfied this.
Yep.
And it's like like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, yes, it is. You're hurting my score.
Yes. Yeah, and but here's the thing. There's no obligation from the credit company, whether it's credit card or whoever the lender is. There's no obligation. They're not required to remove it.
Yeah.
So when you call them, you be as nice and polite and how's your day going, and I hope
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
having oh, it's such a wonderful day, the weather is beautiful and the birds are chirping, and oh, by the way, would you mind removing that late payment that I had
Yeah.
off my credit score, because it'll really help me.
Yeah,
You have to
I
be.
do as much as I can to engage. Like it doesn't matter really who I'm talking to, really. I try to engage as much as I can just about like how's your day? Like get to know them. They're not a robot. They are a fucking human being on the other end of
They
that
are.
line.
They are, and you can manipulate. So, and to be honest, like those. So, and if you're not comfortable doing it, that's what you're paying those
Credit
people
repair
the
companies.
credit repair companies.
And
It's,
hopefully,
hopefully they should be good at the politeness and the repertoire or whatever you call it.
yeah.
Going through the motions, sort of like when you hire a lawyer to go fight your traffic ticket. The lawyer's going to go in there and be like, oh, he didn't do it on purpose. He's sorry. And is there any way you can just waive it this time? And, it's kind of like that, but it doesn't hurt to just attempt it, to try it yourself. If you don't, because if you're in that, chances are, if you're in that situation, you might not have the money to pay a credit repair company to go and do this stuff for you.
Yeah.
You could take that money and put it towards.
And if I'm correct on this one, I'm not sure, but if you have something in collections and you call up that collector, you can be like, hey, listen, I want to start paying this debt off. Is there no way we can pull it out of collections and then I just kind of pay you guys? Because right now, like your payment, your balance is considered in collections, but there's a debt servicer who's attempting to collect the debt, and they will contact you, and that is their job, is to work with you to satisfy this debt, whether it be through a settlement or a pay structure. Sometimes they're like, well, how much can you qualify for? How much can you contribute? And then you just be like $20 a month. Okay, not a problem. Let's go ahead and set you for $20 a month. Sometimes they'll ask you if it's some of them will do income based, but that's what their model is. It's like, how much money do you make? Oh, I make $50,000 a year. So okay, well, based on that, based on the amount, they'll walk you through the formula and they say like, you're obligated to pay $120 a month. Well, unfortunately, I can't pay $120 a month with the other bills that I have, but I'm willing to pay $50 a month, and they will work with you. You just got to negotiate with them. And it's just like, it's gonna suck. It will suck. I've been through the trenches. Jared's been through the trenches. Millions of people have been through the trenches.
That sucks.
But I'm telling you, putting your head in front of your finances and digging your way out instead of digging with your head down is so much more satisfying when you come out of that goddamn trench and knowing that you did it. And there's like, you're gonna fear almost nothing. Money will no longer be an object of fear for you. And that's what you want. That's what I encourage.
Yeah, the only downside is once it has gone to collections, the chances of that lender pulling it back from collection, unless it's like an in-house. Some companies have their own in-house collections, collection agency, to where they just it transferred from the active loan to a collection department within the same company. Sometimes they can go backwards and go into like a repayment kind of a status. But if they sell that loan to a third party, the chances of them getting that loan back for you to work with that original lender is basically slim to none. You're going to have to call that collection company. Now, you can still call the collection company and negotiate something with them because, like I said before, they bought this loan. They bought this debt for pennies on the dollar. So if they bought it for $500, they bought a $5,000 debt for $500. You can call them up and be like, "Hey, man, I got $2,500. I can give you that right now, like free and clear. We're done. You don't bother me no more." And and they make out better. So keep that in mind when you're going through this process, trying to figure out how to pay these things off, and kind of look at it. Almost look at it like sort of a game, It's like, hey, I wonder, I wonder what I can get with this one, But then don't be disappointed if you don't get anything, because at the end of the day, you did spend the money. You do owe them. You do owe the money. It was, you messed up and you spent more than what you could afford, but you can't get mad about it. A couple of the other things to check on your credit report is going to be like high balances, because that credit utilization. So if you have high balances, you want to try to start paying those down. And then the other one is look for bankruptcies and foreclosures. Now, obviously, if you have those, you would know about it because you had to physically file for bankruptcy, or if you went through a foreclosure, you're probably not in your same house for that reason. But what happens sometimes is you go through those things, but then they don't get taken off of your credit report. I forget how long they stay on there, but sometimes there's a time limit. After that time limit, sometimes they don't go away. So you want to
Yeah,
look
so you have
if
to
you've
call
ever,
them up.
yeah, and if
Yeah.
they haven't removed it, yeah, you got to call them up and say, hey, that was 5 years ago or 7 years ago or whatever the timeline
Yeah.
is, the time frame. That was X amount of time ago. It needs to come off my report because
Yeah.
as long as it's, even if it's outside of that time, as long as it's still on your report, it's still negatively. Yep. It affects your credit score.
That was funny.
It's no good. So, um, so the next section. So I've kind of wanted to break this up into like, and we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but we've talked about what credit scores are. We've talked about how to get your credit report and what to look for on your credit report, and then we talked a little bit about how to raise your credit score during that conversation. But there's basically the last meat and bones of it, which was what everybody like wants to know. How the hell do I raise my credit score? And we've talked about a few of them, but we'll go. I've got 6 points here or 5 points in our notes here. So basically, like how to boost your credit score. What are the top 5 ways to boost your credit score? I'm going to talk about them now.
It's pretty
Do
easy, honestly. It really is.
It
once
is.
once you know what these are, it's like, oh, well, that's simple.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a rocket. I kind of merge those together. Rocket scientist and
You don't have to be a rocket scientist.
yes,
rocket.
science. You don't have to be a rocket to figure it out.
Mm-mm. No.
But I'm. Wait.
But
do
I'm.
I have? Nope. That's not.
Oh my lord. No, there it is. That's it.
There it is. Yeah. But so the first thing is if you don't have enough credit to increase, so going back to the age of your credit. So have you ever added somebody or been an authorized user on somebody's credit card?
Yeah. And then vice versa.
So you've been an authorized user and then you've given it to somebody else as well.
More of someone's been an authorized user for me. So I went under their card to boost my credit score.
There you go. So if you don't have the credit history and the age of credit or whatever, you can piggyback on somebody else's credit by becoming an authorized user. There are some caveats to it. And some of the lenders and the credit card companies have kind of gotten wise to that because they knew a lot of people were getting into, like, they were becoming an authorized user and it's like, oh, I'm going to boost my credit score. But here's the thing. Some of these lenders are like, nope, we're not going to, because what happened before is I become let's say Chris, like you're going to make me an authorized user on your credit card because you've got wonderful credit. And so when I become an authorized user, I now sort of inherit your credit history onto my account, onto my credit, and it affects my credit score. So, but now what some of the lenders started to get wise to, so to speak, is the fact that they're like, yeah, we know what you're doing, so we're not going to report their whole history onto your credit report because that's not how that works. Right. So there's a couple of credit cards that still will look at the whole thing, if you do that, but you just have to go and do the research and figure it out. I can't remember. I saw which ones that still did it, but I don't remember, and I don't want to say because I don't want you to take me at my word for it. But authorized user is definitely a really good way to raise your credit scores pretty quick too. I mean, it happens pretty quick. I've done it.
Yeah, because you're raising your debt ceiling, right? Especially
Yeah.
with someone who has a low credit score or like low credit ceiling. and a low credit balance but a high ceiling. When you bring that debt over to you, that ceiling is raised. So if I have a $10,000 credit card and my wife has $10,000 credit card,
Yep.
and both of our balances are zero, if we become authorized users for each other, both of us just raised our ceiling 10,000. So now we have a credit of 20,000.
Yep.
So when you increase that ceiling, that increase your ability, affordability on a lot of things in terms of your credit stuff.
Yep. Utilization. That's what you're referring.
Yep.
Such a hard word to say. Utilization.
Utilization.
Okay, well, Mr. Expert at saying utilization.
You're welcome.
So that's actually one of the ways to raise your credit score is utilization. I forget what was the percentage that counts towards your.
I think 30.
Was it 30? Yeah, 30%. So
you want to stay in the 30% utilization. So
well, it affects your credit score. It's a 30% weight on your credit score.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. I thought you meant like, okay, it's like, well, let's talk about balances real quick.
You want to try to keep it. You want to try to keep it below like a 10%. That's like the best. 0 is going to be great, but 10%. If you start going more than that, then it could
minimum 30, and then after that, like you want to go below.
Right.
So another thing.
Go ahead. So with utilization, so this is kind of counterintuitive. So obviously, if you have a high, if you have a lot of debt and your utilization is high, you want to pay down on some of that debt to spread that gap a little bit, right? So, but the other thing you can do, and it's sort of counterintuitive, and it's going to drop your score initially, like what we saw with your Home Depot credit card. But you can actually go out and you apply for new credit cards. Well, there's two things you can do. First thing is I would call your current credit cards and say, hey, any chance you can raise my credit limit?
Increase that debt.
Yeah. So you're now increasing that gap. The other thing you can do is apply for new credit cards. Yep. Hopefully, they're not going to, you want to do ones that aren't going to give you, they don't have like an annual fee and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to use the credit cards.
The perks,
Right. But if you're trying to just raise your credit score and you don't want to spend the annual fee, you would rather put that towards paying down debt, which I highly recommend. Once you get your debt under control, then you can start looking for the credit cards that have good perks and have annual fees and so on and so on. But I would recommend just applying for regular credit cards, no annual fees, just to increase that debt to credit or credit utilization ratio.
I have to agree with you on that one. It's you're gonna want that. You want to increase that utilization there. See, now I had a hard time saying it.
See, I'm telling you, man, it's a hard word to say, and I don't know why. And I wish there was some other word I could say utilization, because I have to squinch my key down. Utilization. Okay, so, but it's kind of backwards as far as, hey, I have bad credit. I'm going to go apply for more credit cards so I can get better credit. How dumb does that sound? But it's true. It's true. It's true. So let's see. So we talked about
here's a little note while you're going through that. When you are using your credit card and you use it often, here's the thing to remember. There is a due date and then there's a report date. They are two different things. So your due date is it's like on the 20th or 25th. And so that's when your minimum payment is due. And so say if you pay off your credit card and you make your payment, awesome, the 25th, the 26th rolls around, you decide to go out on a shopping spree. And then you blow through that 10% threshold of utilization or 30% threshold. You just say, fuck it, max it out. Well, the report date is like 3 days behind the due date. So, and they're going to report that you made a payment, yes, but they're also going to report that now there's a new balance above whatever you just spent on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't help your credit score. It actually hurts depending on
Mm-hmm.
how big that utilization is.
Correct.
So you have to find out when that report date is, because they don't really care. They do care about the payment, but they care about what the balance is, because that has a massive impact, like we just been discussing. So call and contact. It's really hard to find in writing of like when your report date is, and if you're having a hard time, just call them and be like, "Hey, when is the report date? When do you report my card balance and payment to the credit bureaus?" Oh, it's the 28th, and your payments on the history is on the 25th. So now you know I got to wait 3 days before you use this thing again. I got every time I make a payment, set it to the side, pick it back up.
Yeah, because it doesn't always fall on the same day that your payment is due, and just because you made a payment and then you use it again, just like you said, they're going to report whatever the balance is at that time, and they're going to send it off to the credit bureaus. So and I've done that before. I've called the credit card companies. I'm like, hey, when do you guys send this off? Like, and I've done it on the flip side. I'm like, I don't have any money to pay you right now, but when are you going to send it to the credit bureaus so I can make sure I pay it before you guys send it?
Yeah.
Because I don't want the late payment showing up.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So yeah, don't get late payments. If you had, like, if you're gonna be late, or if it already is late, call the, chances are, I mean, they probably will just report the balance has increased. They might not, after like 30 days, they might not report the late payment just yet. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends on the company. But you can call them and say, "Hey, I'm running late. I couldn't make the payment. Can I pay it now? Can I, can you not send this to the credit bureau because it's going to kill my score?"
Chances are it is kind of automatic.
Nowadays it probably is. Yeah, a lot of it is. Before, when it was still fairly new, it was like kind of manual. Like I think people had to sit there and send it off. So I mean that's late payments. So late payments, don't just get it taken care of. If you have any late payments on your credit report, get that taken care of. You can actually, if the credit card company won't work with you on getting those paid off or getting them removed, you can ask them to remove late payments, to say, "Hey, this is paid in full," and then they will remove. They don't have to, but they can.
Yeah.
If they won't do that, go onto your onto your credit report and start looking for any discrepancies on the balance, on the due dates, on anything that might be inaccurate. Because if you can find some inaccuracies and then you dispute it, there's a function on the credit report that you can dispute certain inquiries or late payments or whatever. You can dispute that stuff, and then it's up to the credit card company or the lender to prove, yes, this person does owe this much. It was past due on this date. He does have a balance of this. If they can't prove these things, they have to take it off. Because that means it's like, we don't have a record of it. I don't know. It's not matching up. So this must be false. So it's kind of like a Hail Mary. It's kind of like the Super Bowl the other night when the Eagles, that very last play, they had to like just boom, and the dude couldn't even like throw the ball like more than, what did he throw it, like 30 yards or something?
40 yards, if that.
I'm like,
I definitely fell short on that, unfortunately.
I mean, he probably threw the ball farther than I could throw the ball, 100%. But still, and I was expecting him to like bomb it into the end zone or something.
I was hoping for a bomb into the end zone and just like
yeah, bummer.
Kind of like, damn it.
Yeah, damn it.
I would have been nice to see.
We've talked about pretty much everything except for one thing that I want to touch on real quick before we start wrapping it up, and that is, so one of the other ways is you can start boosting your credit scores actually through if you're renting, you can use your rent payments. You can use Even like
Utility.
streaming services. You're
Utilities,
paying
yeah.
those utilities, your phone
Self-reporting.
bill, that kind of
Yeah.
Experian. Have you heard of this Experian
Yeah.
Boost?
Yeah. Experian Boost. Self-reporting is really nice.
Yes.
I think it's a good start for a lot of people who are trying to recover,
Mm-hmm.
to do the self-reporting, especially if you know you're gonna be renting for the next year. You should absolutely be working on like self-reporting on a
Yeah.
regular basis, and then also
What do you mean by self-reporting? Like, who do you report it to?
like you self-report to like the experience to the credit bureaus.
Okay.
You
So
can do that, like renting. Like,
Experian actually has, it's called Experian Boost. They actually have something that you sign up for an account and then you link it directly to your bank account.
mm-hmm.
So then that way it can go through and you tell it which, transaction. Okay, here's my phone bill. I've been paying it. So it actually monitors directly in your bank account.
That's kind of cool. So that
Yeah.
sounds like something that sounds like a little like self-reporting.
It's kind of that, but it does it automatically. So you
Yeah.
sign up for it, you link everything up, and then
Mhm.
it says, okay, yeah, he's making, they're making payments on time to phone bill, credit cards, rent payments. Because rent payments you almost never get. Before they
Which
had
is really
this,
sad. There needs to be a policy on
there
that.
does, yeah. Because if I'm gonna borrow, or if somebody's gonna borrow money and they've been on time with rent payments, which is like a huge thing,
Yeah.
if they've been on time with that, then yeah, I'm gonna loan them some money
Yeah.
because obviously they're,
It's like their rent is just like their mortgage. It's just
yeah,
like the people who are paying rent should absolutely be allowed to report that, or should be by
yeah,
law,
yep,
whether it be like a major company or a small individual like you and me. If we were to rent out a property to someone, like we
yeah.
should have an obligation to report that to the credit bureau.
Oh, 100%, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I'm only helping you or I'm hurting you depending on how late you are.
Well, yeah, obviously if you're no, and that's the caveat. If you're not on time with paying like your utilities and your phone payment and whatever, don't sign up for Experian Boost and don't self-report it because it's gonna see and be like, oh, this guy's always late, and you kind of did that to yourself. So
Yeah.
don't, if you're late on that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
don't sign up for that.
I
But
agree. It's one step
that's
towards financial freedom. You have to
yes.
take that shit head on. You
you,
can't
you
ignore it.
gotta you gotta get your credit score under control. If you're
Yep.
not sure, if you're not sure how to do it, reach out. I tell you,
Reach
honestly the
out to a
best way,
financial advisor.
yeah,
Reach
a
out to a
financial
financial
advisor.
advisor. Don't
Well,
call us.
even that is going to be, a financial advisor might be too much, but reaching out to a mortgage broker like Greg or something like that, because they're going to have an idea. Like if you're trying to get a loan and you want to know how to raise your credit score,
Yeah.
talk to a mortgage broker, a mortgage lender, whoever it is, in that field, because they're
Mhm.
going to tell you, they know exactly what the underwriters want to see. And they've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these files.
Yeah.
And they know exactly, okay, look, you have a 620 credit score right now. I need to get you to 650. You have this. I need you to pay this down. I need you to pay
Yeah.
this down. I need you to go and fix this. I need you, they're going to start going through and looking at all these things, and they're going to tell you. So don't go out and initially pay a credit repair company.
Yep.
Call a lender
I wouldn't.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would try to tackle it yourself.
if you're in the market to buy a house, get in touch with me, get in touch with Chris. We'll put you in touch with a mortgage broker, or if you know somebody that's a mortgage broker, call them, and then I guarantee they're 100%, they're going to tell you, all right, we're going to look at this, we're going to analyze, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they're going to, because they want you to buy a house.
Yeah,
Because
that's the goal. It's like, what's your
that's the
goal?
goal.
I want to buy a
Right.
house. All right, here's what
Okay.
you need to do. Here's the roadmap. I need you to
Right.
follow this roadmap.
Yeah.
And if you
100%.
don't follow the roadmap, you're not getting a house.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. It is that simple.
That simple.
The
And
road to homeownership is a simple feat. You just have to be willing to sit down with someone and bust out your finances, face that demon head on, and then just eat that horse. Okay.
Yep. 100%.
One bite at a time. Yeah. That's what you got to do.
It's the only way you're going to start building personal wealth, meet your financial goals, things like that, because you'll never get there if you have bad credit and you're paying these high interest rates. You know, if you want to start investing the way the big leagues do it, they borrow money. They borrow money at low interest rates.
Very low.
That's just how it's done.
It is.
So if you can't get there, and if you're not going to get there, then you're not going to have you're not going to meet your goals. If you have your goals, I don't know. Everybody's different.
That's true.
Everybody's different. I have my goals.
I got mine.
So,
brother.
Yeah, man.
It's been real.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
This was a good first live episode back.
Absolutely. Let's celebrate.
2023. Love it. Love it. Well, guys, that is the end of the show. We are going to get out of here, but I hope you enjoyed that show. If you have more questions, for real,
or particular topics, for sure, let us know.
Yeah, if you have like more topics that you want to hear about, let us know. And if you have more questions about this particular topic, raising your credit score, 100%. Like if you don't know who else to reach out to, give me a call, give Chris a call, send us an email. I mean, you have to start somewhere. Do not try to go at this alone unless you are good at it. You know, but if you're just like, hey, if you're sitting there and you're thinking like, okay, I need to raise my credit score, but I don't really know how. But I'm just gonna, I've heard this. I'm gonna wing it. I've heard this. I've heard that. I think I should do. No. That's gonna take you years.
And
what we're talking about,
and before you start following advice from complete strangers on TikTok and shit like that, look up who they are. There's people who give out great advice, but they talk out of their ass, and it's just like you gotta look at who they are, the criteria. Is this just some Joe Schmo, or is this a lawyer talking? Is this a financial advisor talking? What's their experience level? So,
please don't start on TikTok with your research. Just, even if there is good information out there, just don't start on TikTok.
Yeah.
Just,
unfortunately, like TikTok is like the younger generation's Google.
It is.
I don't want to read it. I just want to be told what to do.
And I tell you what, that's fine. That is 100% fine. But call me or call Chris, and we'll tell you which influencers.
You hear that, Gen Z?
Which influencers are the ones to pay attention to? I could, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to call me, because if I put it out here, you're not even going to, you're going to forget. Call me, call Chris. We'll tell you which ones to follow, because there are the good ones and there are the ones that just make up. I don't even know where they. I don't even know.
Yeah, they just heard it from another and they just regurgitated it, and it sounds like shit.
Yeah,
so here's a little sneak peek on like what the next subjects are going to be. We're going to be talking about appraisals, and we're going to talk about solar panels.
Yeah, and then we've got an episode coming out. What is our next episode?
Next Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So stay tuned, y'all.
That's the reason we have episode 29.5 on this one. That one will be episode 30. But you know what? I cannot for the life of me think of what the topic is. What the hell are we talking about? Yeah.
Next week, solar panels and appraisals.
No. We have a pre-recorded show in the.
We do. Shit.
Yeah. What the hell is it about? Damn it! That sucks.
I don't know. You're the magic.
I tell you what. The best way to find out
is stay tuned for next week.
Stay tuned and check it out on Thursday.
On that note,
all right, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
We out. Peace. Chug it. thought you were gonna learn this on the guitar. Damn it.
Oh, well, it's not over yet, sir.
Like,
I will.